Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Like the MC said, I'm going to, although I work for Sun Microsystems as an open technologies advisor, I thought for this conference what would be really relevant is to wear my old hat. I was the Chief Information Officer at the Department of Science and Technology, and I was the chairperson of the Open Source and Open Standards Committee within the government of South Africa. So I just want to share with you the road that we took towards developing this policy within the government. And since it's the last session, I thought I'd start with my conclusions, just in case some of you don't make it to the end. You know, we're all facing huge problems, especially in government. We're looking at eradicating poverty, homelessness, illiteracy. I was just suggesting that you leave the lights on because I can't see you if we put the lights down. Hopefully I'm more interesting than the slides, but if you want to see the slides, then we can ask our guest, our host to tell me. But I prefer if I could see you, otherwise I can't see you. I think it's a challenge. So, like I said, we faced huge problems, and each government has its own issues, and within our government, we have our huge issues as well. And we felt that the only way we can start addressing these issues, if we try and utilize the full potential of every person that we can, if we harness the power of this community, that's the way we're going to go towards solutions. And in government, we need efficient and effective information systems. But I think that's true for any company out there. And we also believe if we're going to develop this knowledge society, that individuals must have access to IT and to information. And we believe that open systems can help us achieve that. So what is it in it for us? You know, why free and open source software? I think at the national level, we believe there's economic benefit and growth. I'm not going to, in this half an hour, give you the full debate, but you know, there's a lot of arguments that can go into that. At the institutional level, at the individual department, at the individual organization, there's the potential for cost-effective, reliable, and redistributable software. For the IT professionals, there's elegance. You know, some people write about how coding is like writing poetry. And I think the free software enthusiasts really like writing elegant code that's reliable and effective. And I think this is where the real challenge is. For end users, especially in government, it's not always obvious what is the advantages to them of using free software. Like we heard in India, all software is free anyway. And that's where the whole change management has to come in. So this is the road that we took in South Africa to developing a free and open source software policy. In 1998, we reviewed our information systems around e-governance and IT management, and we came up with a commission report, which I'll touch on. In 2001, we had the National Advisory Council on Innovation. This is an advisory body that advises the Minister of Science and Technology. And they came up with a report advising government to use free software and mandating open standards. That report then resulted in us as IT officers in government to respond, and we had to look at the report and come back with a policy, a strategy, which I'll also touch on. In 2005, we had the Go Open Source campaign. So this was that ecosystem we talked about. We had government, we had multinationals, we had civil society organizations, all coming together to promote a national campaign around open source. We had a program, a Saturday afternoon. Unfortunately, it competed with the rugby in our country, and that was a bit of a problem. But we had a program on national TV around creating awareness around free software. The campaign included LPI exams, creating a geek league, a number of initiatives. I think also importantly, in 2006, the free open source open standards was taken for us to a international level where we have a trilateral agreement between Brazil and India. And we looked at many areas in which we could collaborate between the three countries. Open standards and open source was one of the areas we believed that we could collaborate on. I think even though maybe much work hasn't been done on it, it was very important in the minds of our ministers that this issue is raised at these international levels. In fact, our minister then went on to become the patron of the Free and Open Source Foundation for Africa shortly after that. So again, ministers taking a leadership role in terms of creating awareness and promoting free software. And then in 2007, we had a decision from our cabinet to approve the following three policies: a free and open source policy, an information society and development plan, and as well a interoperability framework that our government adopted. So in 1998, we did a presidential review, and we found that we weren't getting much value for our investment in IT systems, and that many of our systems in government weren't even able to talk to one another. So we had all of these silo systems, and we weren't getting value for money. And most importantly here, information is not shared or reused in any organized manner. There was huge duplication of functions and systems. Our response to that as the Government IT Officers Council, and just to explain this to you, the CIOs of every national department and provincial governments in South Africa, we're part of a forum, and this forum is called the Government IT Officers Council. Our responsibility is to be a talk shop. If you listen to our critics, we'd like to think that we advise the minister responsible for IT in government around strategy and policy issues. And our response was that we should have this ICT House of Values, and we look at IT systems. And the pillars of this House of Values are security, interoperability, reduced duplication, economies of scale, and digital inclusion. So after we had this report from the Innovation Council, NACI for short, we were forced to come up with a response. At that stage, we were literally considering banning free and open source software. You know, what should government do? Should we allow this onto our network? What are the security implications? What is going to happen to government systems if we have this willy-nilly adoption of geeks wearing T-shirts coming into government and hacking our systems? You know, all the normal fear, uncertainty, and doubt that we had. We then formed a committee that looked at the issue, and we came back with a strategy for government. And the strategy for government basically said that we saw benefit in free and open source software, that we believed that we should level the playing field, because at that stage we weren't considering free software. We believed that going forward we should evaluate proprietary software and open source software on an equal footing. And I think it's also very interesting, you might experience something similar. When we started our investigations, we wanted to do some research, and we said, let's develop a baseline. What is the understanding amongst IT managers in government of free software? And very shortly after we started, we had to end the project because we learned most people didn't know what free software was. That when we spoke to them about free software, they thought we were talking about shareware or malware. And that also resulted in us stop using the word free software because it confused the issue. We found it much easier to start talking about open source software. So going forward, at that point, we just made a conscious decision that we'll start talking about open source software just to avoid the confusion around freeware and shareware, which most people at that stage thought we were talking about. We also said that the strategy for adopting free software in government should follow three phases. There should be the initial awareness phase, which includes demonstrations, pilot projects, the like. There should then be followed by an enhanced adoption phase. And then once we've reached a level of maturity, we could then really take a much more aggressive approach in terms of adopting free software, because we had seen a lot of benefit that we could derive as government from it.